crooked the road and the one driving.
Hello, friends.
25 years.
We're going to get started pretty close to on time because we're actually recording today. And so folks can just go back and watch anything they miss. Sarah, the pink's gone?
Run past the dogs and the whole.
Oh, you're muted.
It faded out. I've got to refresh it. There's
I
like a
like the
little
blonde.
bit. Yeah, there's a little bit of pink left, but yeah, it's bleached out so that I can repink it soon.
Okay, good,
There's
good.
like a few little pieces, like this little bit, not much
Oh,
left.
I
It's
see
almost
it.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, hi.
That telephone line.
Okay, so just gonna give
And tomorrow
a couple of seconds for folks to come in. And like I said, we're going to get started pretty much right on time. Great, Sarah! Oh my gosh. Y'all are so cute. I can't handle it. Yeah, we're going to give it about another 30 seconds and then we'll get started.
tennis courts when I was yours. Late night releasing shaky floors. Got me believing a little more. This pain will run its course. In the morning, I saw you there, holding out your hand. If I grab it, know that I care, 'cause darkness don't look good. But if you're leaving, know I'll stand beside that telephone line. And tomorrow,
Well, Meg, you can come on camera in a second, or you can always join the panel. So yeah, let's get started, folks, because since this is a recorded session, the Q&A section is going to be a little bit streamlined so that the majority of the Q&A will happen on the WTF FAQ website. So folks will be able to access all of the questions that were asked during registration and all of the answers, although we may have enough time to get some of those questions. But I've been really looking forward to this session. I have been looking forward to it ever since it finished the first time around, because I feel like for the past couple of weeks before we had our solidarity sesh, I just felt like my voice was like being too much. Like I was like, I want to hear more people because I get so much inspiration in this moment and so much hope and so much of my resilience. Someone said to me, like, I really love your energy that you bring to WTF. And I was like, I'm just a mirror. Like I have all these beautiful, sparkling humans in my life that give me all this power and strength from being out in the world, being their beautiful whole selves. And so I was just really excited that when we all came together the first time around, it was everything that I was kind of hoping and dreaming it would be, to virtually share space with you all. So really excited for the Encore version of W2F Office Hours Solidarity Sesh. And I wasn't able to get Crystal to return because she is a federal employee that has been forced to return to the office and is not really able to step away from her computer. And so the CDC is really not a super safe space for people. And so that's something to really, I just wanted to name that. That was something that we're not able to reprise this time around, because the reality is that the federal funding freeze is impacting so many of our communities in so many ways. And so with that said, It would be great if someone would want to share an opening. I know Grace, you had a really cool poem, but I'm not sure if there's anyone who'd like to share an opening, either a panelist who wants to, or if someone wants to raise their hand and do a grounding. I would just like to invite that and welcome that.
I don't have a grounding, but I was planning in my sort of 5 minutes to ask a question, and it might be interesting to just open it up to the folks who are online, which is I was curious to hear in the month or so since we last met, what folks are noticing as changes in external conditions and internal conditions for each of you. Taking that however you want, however close to your life or distant.
Yeah, so if you'll also, Sarah, pop that in the chat, I'll play
Sure.
a song for a couple minutes and folks can feel free to just enter in the chat. I think that's a really great question. So if you could repeat it, Sarah, and then type it in the chat, and I'll queue up a song for that.
Great. Yeah, so I'll type this in the chat. So again, question is, over the course of the last month, anything you've noticed in terms of things that have changed in external conditions and internal conditions?
There's flowers in your head. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up. Mondays aren't always bright. Some days you lose the fight, but life can be beautiful if you let it be. Tomorrow keeps taunting you with all kinds of mystery. It's a blank page for your poetry if you let it be. So don't tell yourself it's raining. The clouds are in your head. You tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, before you lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your head. Hold on, there's somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees, yeah. Look up. Look up. Hold on. Look up. Sometimes your life feels like a broken roller coaster, 1,000 useless moving parts. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your head. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees, yeah. Look up. Trouble's always gonna be there. Look up. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up.
That was a great question. And Grace, don't want to put you on the spot, but could you also invite us in with I was starting to say prayer, but poetry can be a prayer as well.
Yes. Also a prayer. I read this poem the last time, but I also often like to read poems 2 times anyway. So Marge Piercy, this is called The Low Road. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up, they can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can burn your brain with electricity. blur you with drugs till you can't walk, can't remember. They can take your child, wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't stop them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone, you can fight, you can refuse, you can take what revenge you can, but they roll over you. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration, 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter. 10,000 power and your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again and they said no. It starts when you say we and know who you mean. And each day you mean one more.
Thank you. That I definitely have noticed I'm a lot more tender in the time since we've met. And the first time I heard that poem, it made me feel pretty tender and definitely, yeah. Thank you, Grace and Sarah, for welcoming us in together. I'm hoping you all can see this flow. My screen is doing something weird here. Let me try that again, because it was the way the screen share was. Okay, is that better? Can you all see the flow? All right, now I can't see you nodding, so can someone?
So,
No, we can't see your screen anymore.
No, okay, let me try that. Sorry about that. Okay. How about that? Awesome, thank you. So we've made it to the portion where we'll hear from the community perspectives that are represented on the panel. But every time I jump into office hours, I forget that there's sometimes folks that are joining in for the first time. And so I should introduce myself. I'm Dania Davey, founder of Land and Liberation LLC. And this is just a space for us as farmers, land stewards, and those who support them can come together and think about how to respond to the manufactured crisis that's being created by the government at this moment. And so this time together today will be an invitation to some of my favorite humans in the world who were in WTF office hours together about a month ago. And now that was such an inspirational session of wisdom and knowledge sharing that we were invited to bring the gang all back. And so we'll have a good chunk of time just hearing from them. And then after we've had some from reflections from the panelists, I will do some updates related to the litigation as well as updates that we're aware of with regard to specific USDA programs. We will have some time for, I put Q&A/open mic because I know that several folks shared that they're coming to this space looking for community, and so definitely want to just take everyone off of mute at that point and allow for folks to share some of the things that are on their hearts and minds, and then we'll go into a couple minutes of next steps before going into our closing together. So Without further ado, we'll go right into the panel, and we're going to get it kicked off with Vanessa Garcia Polanco, who is with the National Young Farmers Coalition.
Hello, happy to join you among friends, colleagues, and many farmers, I hope, to grant you in this moment that we're all sharing as humans and as advocates for a better food system. I'm Vanessa with National Young Farmers Coalition, calling you from DC and across the land. And I want to share with you, us as an organization, what we're asking our farmers, many of them who are farming in the middle of climate change. We have a lot of uncertainty, we have a lot of funding freeze and other attacks to their livelihoods and attacks to who they are as humans and the values that they stand for and the values that we stand as a coalition within the ecosystem. The first thing that we ask many of you who are in this call is to share your story with trusted partners. I know not everyone is ready to share your stories with your congressional offices, with the press, but you need to be telling us what are the impacts that you're having. So us, with safety and care, we can communicate those impacts to the people who represent you so we can hold them accountable to take action. This is not a moment to be sinking and screaming and not screaming about it to the right people. As a reminder, you have many advocates here in DC that represent your interests. I know many of us hear the word lobbyists as something dirty and probably are people who do a lot of harm across the ecosystem, but we are here, we are your advocates in DC. And every day I have congressional offices asking me for stories, asking me for impact, and I need to be able to tell them your stories. So the first one I'm gonna share is a link to just our story bank submission at National Young Farmers Coalition. And this is where you can just submit your story and we will anonymize it and we will send it into your congressional office or as a summary for us to just be more aware of how this recent uncertainty, funding freeze, firing of USDA staff, and many other things that I can even account and summarize here are impacting you. So that's my first ask always. Tell your story to trusted partners. Because if you are struggling with everything that is going on, we have a duty as your advocates and as a stakeholder groups to be communicating your stories. And please don't feel like you're alone. Always seek community. Last week, Young Farmers hosted a Front Porch as a community space just for farmers. And mostly through the Northeast, we have many more resources. So I do invite you to check out also our offering of mental health resources. This is a time of a lot of uncertainty and stress for all of us. And remember not to do it alone. As the poem beautifully said, we need to be in community with each other to be stronger. My second ask for all of you, if you have not shared your story with a congressional office, telling us what is stopping you, help us understand and mitigate your risks. And if you have never contacted them, that's okay. That's what people like me in DC can help you navigate. And if you don't feel like that's too much of us, or you don't want to share your personal story, you can just share your story about why do you care in a way that doesn't really tell everyone who you are and why you are upset about this. So the second ask that I have for you is to please contact your member of Congress. And I'm trying to find the right link for that one. One second, everyone. It's really important right now that we continue telling all the stories to elected members of Congress. And right now, one of the biggest pressure points that we have is the Honors Farmers Contracts Act, where we want to encourage other members of Congress to endorse it, just to know that this is a vehicle and a mechanism available to congressional members to force USDA to release federal funding that is frozen. At the same time, we know not everyone is going to be capable of do that, but we want to increase the communication from you as a stakeholder to congressional offices. So even if you have a Republican member, they can feel that pressure. And they will either through back channeling or behind closed doors, put that pressure in their leadership and to USDA. What we continue hearing is even Republicans are not getting a lot of answers about why the funding freeze is happening. They don't have a timeline to get back why this is happening. So when even members of their own party are not getting answers, we need to be putting more pressure on them so they can get answers. Because at least they should be talking to each other, you will hope. But again, we live in really different times. So a lot of what we had to do is build up pressure. Third, one of the ways that we build up pressure is to public communications. Now it's all of us as the stakeholders that have a duty to be asking questions about what is going on at USDA and across the country and many things beyond that. But it is also through general members of the public. So that's just really important that if you can and if you're comfortable, share your stories with members of the media or through social media or through other forms of communication, radio, podcast, whatever feels the most comfortable and natural to you. This is a moment to be communicating your stories of harm and impact so we can have a larger narrative of everything that is going on. I have friends that live in DC that work in policy that didn't know that USDA funding was frozen. So we need, even when people who live here, who are at the center of federal government, don't even know that farm, food, and federal programs are being frozen and that farmers are hurting and many communities across the countries are impacted, that tells you something. We need to be telling our stories more. And again, if you don't know how to do this, we have plenty of resources and ways to do that. And also, when you submit your story, when you're on farmers, there's an option of say share with the media. So you will be putting on media list and we will reach out if there's a media inquiry that matches your farm or situation that our report is asking us about. And again, you can always reach out and we'll help you navigate putting your story out to the media as an op-ed or any other form of communication that you feel is adequate to you and your organization. And again, so I said, you need to share your story with trusted partners, with members of Congress, with the press. There's other stakeholders at play that also hold a lot of power right now. And that is state departments of agriculture, in attorney generals, and your even elected members inside the state level. I'm getting a lot of questions if state legislatures are going to be filling the gap for the lack of federal funding. I don't have the answer to that, but I know if they're continually hearing feedback that the federal government is lapsing, they may step up. I know they're really great organizing at the state level that will maybe allow for state legislatures to fill that gap and also for state attorney generals and state departments of agriculture to play a role. For example, we saw this with Pennsylvania this week when LFPA termination, they formally submitted an appeal to USDA. And I'm trying to get you that example. And this is, again, right now, this is a moment where we need to leverage several tools available to us to exercise power and influence so the conditions change. And I only posted, not the link, I posted the copy and paste. Yeah. These are a lot of the tools available to us now, but I also want to remind you there's a lot going on. And I know a lot of these calls we're trying to focus a lot on the executive branch in USDA. This is also part of the strategy right now, just to create a lot of chaos and confusion. So we're only focused on one part of the trifecta. We cannot forget that Congress is still at play. Congress is Republican-led right now. And many other policy proposals will not harm us tomorrow, but they will harm us in the long term. So I really want us also to invite to take a moment to find yourself grounded in that all those things are happening, but we also have to be thinking about the long game. And we also have to be thinking about supporting Farm Bill asks, supporting other asks that may come. Because if they're playing a long game, we also need to be playing a long game. Right now, the Senate is considering the budget resolution. And I posted a summary, and that budget resolution will attack many things that we care about, from Medicaid to SNAP to many other great programs that support our communities beyond the farm gate. So I do invite you to also take a moment just to do a check. What is Congress doing? It's not all USDA and the White House, but Congress is still at play, and we cannot keep our eyes out of them. Lastly, I know there's a lot of information and a lot of resources out there. We compile a really short list of things that if you need to do something every day to ground yourself, do one of the things in this list. Yeah, that's the right link. Basically, little things that you can do to protect yourself and protect your community. And those can be as simple as like making sure your student loan information is safe and sound. Doing as action alert from a solidarity action related to anything else that not maybe be in your priority area, like immigration, a SNAP, or something else. So again, there are many tools, there are many opportunities to plug in. So I invite you to find one that works for you and also tell us what can we do to get you to the next level. because right now I have been telling to my team and to many other policy advocates, there's a lot of beauty in being in the opposition right now. And I think, Danya, you said this in our first meeting, and I always go back to it. And I was using it to describe it to a friend. Um, Jim Crow didn't happen because things were working. Jim Crow happened because we were in a mess of reconstruction. So we had to be thinking if we were in the third wave of reconstruction, it's because we got so much done in the last 20 years for racial equity, for local food systems. So this is our Jim Crow era now. And many of us said we were living in a Jim Crow, but were making many progress to dismantle a lot of those policies. So I think we had to ground ourselves that we are part of this everlasting regime of change, and this is a part where we have constructed so much that is fearful, that is change, and we're in this construction phase that they're trying to do. So this is the part of the cycle that we're in, but there's always things that will persevere, and there will things that will hold, because this movement is here for the long run. So those are my words of wisdom today. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really, really appreciated everything you said, and I especially want to amplify the state level advocacy. It's so exciting to me as a policy nerd that like there's so many ways for everyone to be involved in this process. I know that, sometimes those of us trying to talk about Farm Bill, it feels so far away for folks, but there's so many state level opportunities. I was just on a panel organized by State Innovation Exchange, and there were state elected officials and their staff, and they were just like, we want to know what we can do to have better state level programs so that we can help fill in some of those gaps. So 100% to your point, Vanessa, that these elected officials, they know that they have accountability to us and they want to hear from us, and everyone who's in a position to share those stories really, really does have impact on those policies. So thank you for all your words of wisdom. And I really appreciate that. I heard that as like a really wide call for all of us to feel that our story and our advocacy will be a part of the solution that we're building together. So thank you for that. Our next speaker will be Sarah Sohn with the Braiding Seeds Fellowship from Soul Fire Farm.
Eep. I said this last time, I'll just say it again, that I think Aita and I might be battling it out for most like shyest public speaker. But I will repeat that if Dania asks me to do something, I say yes. So I'm back here, and we'll just have to try to pretend like this isn't recorded somewhere on the internet. First of all, like it's really great reading through everybody's responses on those sort of changed external and internal conditions. And I'm thinking about, I'll just sort of jump in where Vanessa left off about kind of like part of what is happening in this moment is obviously pushback to work to progress that has been made. And I guess I am reminded of advice I once got from a farmer mentor about basically she was saying don't ever make major decisions in August, because everybody also always wants to quit farming in August because it's sort of when all of the mistakes that you've made thus far in the season have come to bear and you haven't yet had a chance to redeem yourself in the fall. And she also gave the advice of like, don't ever make the mistake in August of like, if you've had a really good season, like the weather's been great, don't make the mistake of thinking that you're a great farmer, because then next August, when you have a really crappy or difficult weather season, you will have to commit yourself to acknowledging that you're a really bad farmer. So I am feeling, I'll just say, obviously, you can probably tell by my rambling that I am not a policy expert or strategist. That's what the other excellent people here are. My work with the Braiding Seeds Fellowship is largely one-on-one work with farmers. So I will just use my few minutes here to talk a little bit about my sense of where my own work might need to go in this moment, and what I'm noticing from talking with other farm advocate folks and technical assistants, farm service provider, whatever terminology you want to use is. And so I think that the main thing is a recognition of the deeply changed and changing conditions that we're in right now, and the need to have some real humility about our work as farm service providers. And that humility, I think, can actually be really steadying, or at least it is for me, because I do think there is a kind of distortion that sometimes happens when you gain some expertise in an area and it becomes about the things that your day-to-day work, it becomes about the things that like in order for me to help this person get the cost share that they are entitled to via NRCS, we need to do XYZ. And that becomes the main thing that you are occupied with in your thinking day to day. And it quickly kind of displaces some of the underlying commitments. So now that we're in such radically changed conditions, the call that I have to myself or that is studying, and I see in colleagues like those here who I really admire and respect, is an acknowledgement of the changed conditions and a recommitment, a deepening recommitment to what is the commitment that underlies that work. So if there no longer is an NRCS agent where somebody is locally and there's only once every multiple counties and they are, for all purposes, unavailable, what was the underlying thing that we were trying to accomplish together with that farmer, and how can we recommit to that? And of course, those answers are going to be various. As Vanessa was laying out, there's multiple fronts that this is happening. I'm sure you'll hear from the other panelists about the many ways that we might do that. But I guess I just want to urge us, those of us here who are, sort of advocates for farmers, I have found that helpful in this past month. And I guess I also want to say the other thing that I have noticed, and that has been helpful to me, is what kind of mirroring is happening within our organizations and movements of what is happening with this administration, including obviously moves to obey and advance, but also kind of totalizing moves, also moves that, although obviously the rapid response work is critical right now, we also know that we need to have relational integrity with each other, and that kind of relational, trust-based care work that we've been building in our movements, we can't suddenly drop that because we are doing rapid response work. So that's a little bit of a call to any funders potentially that might be in the audience or seeing the recording, is there needs to be a commitment to multi-year funding for both rapid response work, emergency response work, as well as all of the pieces that we know are going to be needed for us to make it long-term. And that includes, the slower, less visible work. Yeah, and then I guess the last thing I'll say in terms of that pattern of like what is being mirrored in our movements, we know, of course, that that language, like somebody raised in the chat, language around prioritizing the needs and rights of BIPOC farmers, for example, like or whatever might be called DEI, that some of the language, because it's been so targeted, then there is a shying away from using certain language in our organizations. And obviously strategy varies, like sometimes it is strategic to use some language or another. But I guess I just want to make a call to us again, in light of that general move to recommit ourselves to our underlying work. I think I would guess that most of us have been through 2020, the uprisings together. And I want to just remind us, like, whatever it is that we might strategically need to do in a moment to help the farmers that we're working with maximally, let's not let this deliberate censorship and erasure of history blunt our own commitments. And so, yeah, just like that is what I'm finding studying. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Sarah. That was so dope. The language thing has been on my mind because I was preparing for that fascism course, and the language piece has been something that has come up so frequently that every chance that we get to think about how we've created a language over the course of all of this time that this movement has been cultivating trusting, caring relationships. And I think that there's a lot to be maintained. I was talking with my family earlier today about, preserving our culture to pass to the next generation is an act of resistance and rebellion and a beautiful thing. So thanks for naming the grounding principles and language that we have as evidence that what's under attack is what we've been building that's been working. So thanks for that reminder. And our next speaker will be Aita from OurSpace World.
All right. Can y'all hear me? I hope so. Trying this double device thing because my colleague Eshe can't join until later. And like Sarah said, this is like so far out of my comfort zone, but the moment demands it, so I'm rising to the challenge, y'all. And this is time for round 2 practice. So this is good. I'm gonna try to share my screen here. Hopefully this will work. I have prepared. Can y'all see my screen? Hopefully, maybe.
Yes, we can see it.
Spotlight video. Okay, I'm not going to join audio on this one. I will share this. Present. Okay, hopefully this is working. So last time we spoke, I offered 5 quotes for solidarity. This time I'm adding one more because it's the encore. My name is Aita Amaize, and together with Eshe, we are with OurSpace World. We're based in Southern Maryland, Prince George's County, but rapidly expanding our network across the country and now globally as well to the global south. So we've been around since 2011, but we've been doing land-based work since late 2019. We have a very dynamic and diverse 100% BIPOC staff. We are intergenerational and we are powered by the ancestors. We are, yes, I'm still saying are because we're not were, we are a recipient of 2 USDA cooperative agreements. They're both frozen and or in limbo. We are also a preferred vendor for NCBA CLUSA. It's also tied to federal funding, and we supported several Maryland farmers to access a food bank contract through LFPA for 2 seasons. And we are still in these times supporting the farmers the best ways we can. Later this month, we're launching a market truck, a mobile farmers market truck. And we are in the process of training BIPOC folks to provide TA support for farmers. And we've really doubled down on that work given that farmers are really struggling in this time. And we are also committed to our young people always because, as the season goes on, they're looking forward to summer, they're looking forward to fall. They may not be very privy to what's going on politically, but we still have the responsibility to make sure that they're prepared to be the elders and ancestors that we lean on in these times. So the first quote I have is that there is no culture without agriculture, and this is by ancestor Baba Tariko Duno, who is from many places, but we most recently met him in DC when he was still with us. I met him twice. The first time he was jump roping in the street near a community garden that we were looking at for future youth programming. And the second time was at a Kwanzaa celebration where his parting gift for everyone was a bean. And he was basically reminding everyone to grow something, right? There's always hope in growing something. And we know that without food, without land work, earth work, there is no culture. So whether there's federal funding, whether there's no federal funding, whether people feel like they need to erase everything that is DEI, our culture will continue. So that's what we're about. Our 3 program areas you can see on the slide, they really kind of work together to further our mission. And this next quote is really sums up, essentially what we're all after, right? There's been the original sins of the United States, stolen land, stolen labor. OurSpace has been a landless organization, and our increasing land access grant was supposed to start that process of us getting land. But in absence of that, we've been able to work with farmers who do have access to land, and that's we built, I think, a strong organization based on this principle here. So this is some of our work that has been put on pause. Some of it will continue through November, but we know after that it's not going to continue. And so, like I mentioned before, we have our mobile market truck coming. So if y'all are on social media, follow Black Food, Black Futures, you will see the truck. And hopefully, we're trying to also increase awareness in the community about why all these cuts and freezes really matter to how we feed our communities. So this is our Ujima initiative work. My next quote is, "I am because you are." And I'm kind of reflecting also on what Sarah shared. Without farmers, OurSpace doesn't really have a job, because as a farm adjacent organization, we rely on our fellow farmers to do the work that we do. So our work is really tied to their work in many ways. And so on this slide, you see several funding partners, several fiscally sponsored projects that we work with, some grant programs that we're working on this week and next because the deadlines are now, because we're trying to, just as we're struggling with our bottom line, our cash on hand, we know farmers are struggling too. So if we have the skills to raise funds for ourselves, then we can have the skills to raise funds for farmers as well. And this is our calabash work. And then I think most importantly, and I don't think we've really heard much about, is our youth and how they're dealing with this moment. We did have a wave of this kind of during the pandemic, where we learned about, learning loss and folks struggling with virtual learning and just getting more and more disconnected. And so this is a big part of our work too, is making sure the next generation is going to be okay. So to the left, you see a curriculum that we put together with a 5th generation farmer. Shout out Michael Carter Jr. in Virginia. And then to the right is a Camp Earth Pact offering that we piloted beginning in 2022, and it has kind of found its feet, and we're continuing to do this work to support not only the youth themselves, but the parents that, they need a break as well. And it's important when the youth come back thinking and talking about farm to table and how to be a good environmental steward, and that can slowly begin to change behavior even at the family level, and we have seen that. So I think it's important to not forget that we're all going through it, but the youth need us as well. And then this was my last quote the last time we talked, which is, "Without community there is no liberation." And we've known this since before there was federal funding. We've known this before there was colonization. We've known this is in our blood. So we just have to continue to lean on this. And then my last quote for bonus, in the background, you see these are some more of our youth work. "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." And so with that, I will close, and I will take questions from everybody and anybody who wants to know what's been going on with OurSpace since the last call. So thank you all. Thank you, Dania.
Thank you, Aita. For some reason, Sarah and Aita agreeing to participate, despite me knowing that they're super duper powerhouses behind the scenes and usually will not hold the mic. I feel like if these two are willing to hold the mic, like everyone should feel really inspired because we all have such a rich thread to add to the story that we're weaving together. And I especially, Aita, when I speak about OurSpace world, you know, the intergenerational I live in an intergenerational home, and we've been talking a lot about just having a village has given me as a solo parent the ability to do the work, to support the farmers and to think about, raising an ancestor for keeping our value system going forward. And so it's so important that the resiliency that you and Eshe have cultivated with OurSpace World doesn't just stop at our generation, but definitely I see all the many ways that we're seeding the future ancestors. So thank you so much for facing your fear and sharing all of that beautiful wisdom with us. Next up, we'll have Sarah Hackney, who is with the National Sustainable Ag Coalition.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dania. And it's a real honor to be in community with all of you today and with these amazing panelists. My name is Sarah. I'm the Coalition Director with National Sustainable Ag Coalition of over 150 groups nationwide, a couple of whom are on the call today. And I'm coming to you today from Washington, D.C., where I live and work amidst all of this disaster. So again, it's good to be here. I'd like to use a few minutes of my time today to outline some of the ways and opportunities that our community is seizing to fight back, and name specifically some concrete ways that you can be involved. Where I can, I also hope to share a couple of signs of progress amidst the losses and the distress we're all living through. You may notice a little bit of interconnection in my remarks and Vanessa's because we share some space. Hopefully that's only helpful. As Vanessa was speaking, I was like, yes, that. But yeah, and one thing I'll say as I jump in, I've got four kind of pieces that I want to talk a little bit about, and I'll open with just a quote. I don't know where this quote originally came from, but I learned it first from my wonderful colleague, Eshe Dorsey at Regenerate Change. But she likes to remind us here at NSAC when we get a little spun out and stressed that it is restorative and regulating to our nervous systems to have a plan in times of upheaval. So consider some of these four pieces, part of what that collective plan is, and part of how we kind of regulate our nervous systems as we navigate such really hard times. So item one of the ways that we're fighting the funding freeze, the funding terminations, and the underlying executive orders that are attacking climate change work, that are attacking DEI and equity work, is in the courts. As you all well know, many, if not most, if not all, of the actions the administration is taking are unlawful, and they are being robustly challenged legally. There are, I just checked today, over 200 cases and counting challenging actions of the administration. I want to acknowledge we're not always seeing the relief we need yet from the courts. Most of these cases are still moving. They are being appealed. They have not yet resulted in the kind of final rulings that are going to give us a more durable answer. But in the vast majority of cases, the initial rulings, the initial opinions being issued by judges are going our way. So relief is a ways off, but we're headed in the direction we want to be headed in the courts across a whole bunch of issues, including the funding freeze. I want to offer some gratitude. That's partly with credit to food and ag organizations stepping up to be plaintiffs in cases. I'll drop a link to one of the cases that was filed just in the last few weeks by the Southern Environmental Law Center, a number of food and ag groups, including Agrarian Trust, Alliance for Agriculture, Marble Seed, Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture, and RAFI, the Rural Advancement Foundation, all officially joined as plaintiffs. That's a really scary thing to do, right? It makes you a potential target. It makes you very visible. It's very brave, and it's really important that folks were willing and able to step up in that way. So I want to offer gratitude to them for that. If you are out there and you are open to considering joining a lawsuit as a plaintiff, would love to know. There is an upcoming additional phase in development that will focus on organizations who've had grant contracts terminated. So if you've had a contract terminated, this could be you, or if you're worried about this and would be willing to consider suing if you receive a contract termination, We'd love to know. We're starting to try to get a sense of who out there might be willing so we can build strong cases. And again, when I say we, I should be clear, INSAC does not litigate, but we're in touch with a number of the amazing organizations that do, and we're trying to connect them to food and ag groups in that space. One other thing I'll briefly mention on a legal support front, recognizing there's more to the work than litigation. I know many of you are sitting with questions around how do I stay in compliance with my federal grant? I have some, one-to-one specific questions for like your situation, your organization, and the work that you're trying to do. We hope to have many more resources more broadly available soon for the food and ag space, but I'll share just a few today that folks may or may not have seen, just in case it's helpful. The folks at Farm Commons developed a starting resource that's oriented both to farmers and organizations with some high-level guidance that you may find helpful. And I'll also note that within the last few weeks, the folks at Lawyers for Good Government, which is not food and ag specific, but broader nonprofit space, has recently expanded their fund protection clinic with the ability to offer expanded pro bono assistance. So I am going to drop a link to that as well, in case that's something that you're exploring or needing for your organization. So that's legal. 2, we are fighting this legislatively in Congress. Vanessa gave a great update on that, but I'll just name a few additional kind of points and additions to what she shared. We are not yet seeing what we need out of congressional Democrats and folks who need to be standing with us and our values and our work. And our job is to ask that they do more. We're starting to see some promising steps. Senator Cory Booker just held the Senate floor in a filibuster for over 24 hours this week, the longest in recent history. We need more of this. Senator Booker also introduced a bill, the Honor Farmer Contracts Act of 2025, that would unfreeze funding at USDA and prevent office closures out in the field that are harming farmers. That bill has 16 co-sponsors in the Senate. If your senator is not yet on that bill, they should be. Either us here at NSAC or the folks at Young Farmers would be more than happy to walk you through any of the steps to provide you with any contact information or support you might need to make that call or that ask. I also just dropped the link in so you can see who's co-sponsored the bill so far. Again, as Vanessa shared, our job here is to deliver pressure on lawmakers to make sure they understand what is happening, the harm it is causing, and the fact that they have a role in fixing it. You can issue anything you can do is help. You can call, you can email, you can tag them in on social media, you can engage and coordinate others to do the same. One other quick action opportunity I'll name here is you're going to start to see more of this happening is in addition to those direct calls and emails, we often use sign-on letters as opportunities to broadly elevate an issue, the need for a solution, and to demonstrate that there's broad constituency behind it. USDA, as you all probably know, terminated over $1 billion in local food purchasing assistance program contracts in the last few weeks. We are organizing a cohort of folks who are affected and impacted by that USDA decision and sending a letter to the agency very soon. If that's you, if you've been a part of an LFPA project or you know folks who have, we'd love for you to consider signing on. And again, it's one small step we can take to demonstrate there's a lot of folks who care, who are being harmed, and to generate pressure on decision makers. Third piece, we're fighting this through narrative work. It is a really noisy media environment. As we've been on this call today, broad-based tariffs have been announced. There's so much news happening. It's really hard to keep things visible and salient in a moment like this. So the more that we can collectively draw attention to the work that we're doing, the values that we hold, and how this administration's decisions are harming us, it does matter. It does make a difference. So whether that is, again, social media, a local press, a blog post on your website, a video on TikTok, whatever channel you have, making sure you use that channel. Like Vanessa shared earlier, it's basically it takes more repetition and more pressure and more presence than you think for the message to be seen. I do think we are being heard. We've talked to more press in the last month than we had in the previous several months. People are interested. People are covering it. More is still needed. Fourth piece I'll just mention, and this really calls in to some of what Sarah and Aita shared. Part of how we do this fight is we care for each other and we keep doing our work and we hold to the values that keep us going every day. That has to be part of the fight and the work. Spaces like this that Dania is holding for all of us collectively, spaces where we build community in our day lives, on our farms, in our gardens, in our communities, places we can rest and restore and feel some comfort as a little bit of a respite. That is critical, and that will matter. We cannot keep up the fight and the work without the growers feeding us, without the network weavers who are holding and sustaining that. So if a big part of how you're responding is keeping up the core work that you do, supporting farmers, supporting your community, if the kind of key way that you're doing this is helping to care for people, feed them, to take care of them, that is needed and critical. And so thank you for that. And I want to make sure we don't forget that. Two other ways I'll just name that care matters and that care can help. Is care can show up as funding. Sarah named this. I want to escalate it. We are going to need, like, as a movement, we're facing layoffs. We're facing the contraction of support for our core programmatic work. There are efforts underway to make broad calls to the funding community that they need to dig deep and they need to support us deeply if they want there to be a movement to come back to. That means longer term funding. That means general operating funding. That means funding that supports relationship work, organizing work, core programmatic work. That is a collective ask that we can continue making and elevating to the philanthropic community right now so that we can keep doing the critical work we've got to do. One small example that I'm hoping to massively grow, a small group of funders last month put together an initial bridge fund of about $1.5 million in general operating dollars to organizations experiencing funding freezes. It was a small start. It was only $1.5 million, but it went out to, I think, almost 30 nonprofits. And again, that's money that keeps the lights on. That's money that keeps payroll happening. The need was much greater. They got it done, though. They got that money turned around in less than a month, and they're trying to double or triple the funds available and offer more funding soon. So as that comes out, we can make sure that gets circulated into the broader community. Quick thing I'll close with, if I pass it over to Grace, just want to be candid and real. There are no easy or quick solutions right now. Things are probably going to get tougher before they get better. Court cases take time, and sometimes the damage is done before they conclude. Congress has never been known for being quick or highly responsive, and so we're going to have to really work hard to push them to act and to push them to defend, especially between now and the midterms. Narrative work is notorious for taking a long time. It takes repetition. It takes time to repeat and repeat for messages to be heard and get in. So if you take one thing from my talk, it's that these are going to be actions that take persistence and repetition at a mass collective scale. It won't be one call to Congress, it'll be dozens. It won't be one lawsuit, it'll be 200 plus. It won't be one call, one gesture of care to our community. It's going to be endless small ones. The small things we do to have one another's backs, to keep each other resourced and rested and able to step in each day. That collective piece is key. I know that no one of us can do everything every day, and how we're going to get through this is we'll be able to step back and step in as we can and count on one another to shoulder the wheel when it's our turn to push. I know we say it a lot, but courage is contagious in moments like this. I hope that we can take heart from one another and in the work that we're doing and continue to build on it in the months and the weeks to come. I'll stop there for now. And also welcome questions. Happy to keep talking.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Courage is contagious. You hit so many really, really good points. And they were all resonant, but one of the things that you were talking about in terms of our relationship building, I read something recently that was talking about how important it is for us to just make eye contact when we're in the grocery store, anything that we can do to humanize one another. I noticed that when we're anxious, we kind of turn inward. And I think that our organizations can do that and our movement can do that. But you named so many ways that, we can crack open our courageous hearts and really make a huge impact. So thanks so much for laying out a really great plan for us. And as Sarah queued up, our next speaker will be Grace Oedell, who is with NOFA Vermont.
Sweet. Thank you, friend. I love that I get to go last because I basically can just say like all these brilliant people already told you all that you need to know. And I so appreciate hearing what I heard from each of you. Thank you. I think that I'll try to just touch on the big picture and connect some dots that y'all have already laid out. But again, I'm Grace Oedell. I'm the executive director up in Vermont of the Northeast Organic Farming Association. We have about 1,600 members, and we're building power for people, land, and justice in the food system. And I really want to, as Sarah was just mentioning, with the news cycle changing so frequently, I really want to first push the truth that power is up for grabs right now. It is chaotic, and in times of chaos, what happens is not clear and it's not decided. And I was reading just this morning a quote from Brooke Rollins, the USDA secretary, who was asked what they're going to do to help farmers if tariffs go on. And she said, here's a quote, "It really depends on what April 2nd looks like. We're ready to go any which way." Meaning they even internally don't have clarity on which way they're going. And so much is going to depend on what we do what we put out proactively, how we respond to what comes, and then what we articulate are our demands that we then stand by and back up. So we are in a dynamic change environment where we get to insist upon our values, insist upon our solidarity, connect the dots between the militarization of police state and ICE increasing activities and the pulling back of resources for regular people. We can connect these dots and show up for each other's actions and be very clear that it's all of us together. So I think that it's important to name, we don't know exactly what the one tipping point action is going to be to stop the onslaught of this fascist coup attempt, but we know that we can help slow it down in so many ways, from fighting in court to gathering stories and shifting narrative to continuing staying up to our work to refusing to lay off our staff if we can use savings that we have, go to funders, share money with other organizations that might have less money. We have so many supportive allies, and really relying on those relationships has been really helpful to us to be able to both ask for what we need, offer to others what we have. So slowing things down, like we see in this action of Senator Booker. If there's any senators on this call, I'd love to see senators just continuing to talk one after the other, so that no more business can happen. But this kind of solidarity work, and at the same time, being willing to be in coalition with people with whom we may struggle sometimes. I've been trying to remember a lot of the time when I'm at meeting and I hear something that isn't 100% my politic. If I am at a table where I only agree with everyone, it's probably not a big enough table. And I'm going to try to extend and listen and find mutual ground where we can move together. And it's been hard and deep work. But I think that this point that's been made about not complying in advance is really important for the slowing down effect. As Timothy Snyder, who wrote the book on tyranny, which I assume many of us have read at this point, he explains most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. In times like these, individuals think ahead about what a more regressive government will want and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. And so we had to teach what we won't do. We will stay up to the work we're doing. We will not comply in advance. We will have each other's backs if we get, hurt or cut off because of that noncompliance. And to kind of build on the point that you were just making, Sarah, as Maurice Mitchell says, public courage is the nucleus of all social change. So we're going to do everything that we can to slow down the gears and put everything into effect, from the court cases to the narrative development, to staying up to our work, to being in solidarity, to doing direct actions. But we're also going to encourage everybody in whatever roles we have to stand up and have a moment of public courage. And if you feel a moment of public courage coming on, to not feel like you need to ask permission or you need to vet it by someone, just go ahead and do the act of public courage that's available to you in your own community. We all have them, and we don't really know when they're coming, and we don't know what kind of cascade effects there are. And when you hear other people taking public courage, support them, step in behind them, make sure you have their back, make sure you know you're going to wrap around them. And I've just been thinking about that so much, and really appreciating the communities that we've been tending of around solidarity. We have been really turning into to the members of this community and saying, what do you all want to get up to? Because I think the one piece I want to add to this conversation is that I think we are all following these channels of speaking to our congressional leadership, bringing lawsuits if we can, speaking out, staying on the work, and talking with a lot of friends who are in more explicitly pro-democracy organizations. What I'm hearing is we need sustained public protest. We need to be in the streets together, and we need to be demonstrating a very visibilized no to what's happening to make the way for more sustained actions like a boycott or a general strike. We need to get there, but we need to get there by doing sustained public nonviolent protest. And as we can see, there's this clampdown on protest activities right now. And so this is a time we really need to be brave. So we have been doing a lot of organizing within our membership to say, like, are folks ready to do some actions? Where are we at? Who is out there who's interested? What kinds of things might you be interested in doing? And we've heard a couple things really come through with our membership. One, they really want us to articulate a positive vision, like was said earlier on the call, like name where we want to go and tell and say how we're going to get there. We want to go to a place where everybody has enough food. We want to go to a place where nobody is disappeared in the night, where people can stay together with their families, where everybody has enough, right? Like where every kind of worker is valued. This is where we're going, and really insist on it rather than falling to like getting into a fight about the terms of whatever's being put forward. And the other thing we've been hearing is, really calling people in that way. And in our community, there's been a lot of concern about Canada, the tariffs, and the relationship with the border. So pushing back on the idea that we're going to annex our neighbors. We have membership that is Canadian because our cooperatives extend past the border here in Vermont. And we have many farmers in our membership who have joined our member calls and are saying, like, on the Canadian side, we are really scared of a military expansion project up here. And that's kind of been news to, I mean, I know I've heard of some talk about Canada, but so one of the dreams that we're currently dreaming on are escalations around like our relationship, our friendship beyond these borders, and solidarity suppers. And we've been working with this metaphor of the long-handled spoons. I don't know if this story is familiar to people, but I'll drop it in the chat. But there's this allegory of long-handled spoons where like people are trying to feed themselves and they can't figure out how to get the spoons in their own mouths, and they just get hungrier and hungrier, but then they figure out they can like feed each other and they have enough to eat. And so we're trying to build some actions around that and around feeding each other across the border. We've been inspired by the artist who made the seesaws on the Mexican and US border, and really want to insist, like, we're friends. We have mutual reciprocity here, and have solidarity suppers where we come together and bring a stone soup meal. So these are some of the actions that we're trying to figure out how to do that are calling into this vision of mutual aid, and also would be public actions, public protests, non-complicity with what's happening. And there's so many broad protest opportunities, like the 5051 protests and the hands-off protests coming up this Saturday, the 5th, all over, that we can bring members to and build a little bit of momentum there too. So I wanted to say those things on top of everything else that's coming up, and really, really really insisting on this. We're going with our membership, we're meeting with the farmers, and we're figuring out what everybody's willing to get up to together, because then we go at a really good speed. Finally, there's going to be some other regional farmer day of action escalations on the 16th. There's some being planned in Maine, and there's some being planned in Vermont. If your state wants to do something on the 16th as an invitation to think about, do you want to show up at during federal recess. You could go to a congressional office, you could go to a USDA office, you could just do a public theater performance, whatever you want to do. So I just wanted to let folks know that. And I do have another Marge Piercy poem that I could offer to stop talking, because I was thinking, Marge always has something good to say. So this one's shorter, but maybe I'll just read it and then we'll open it up to Q&A. This is called To Be of Use. Y'all know this one? So good. The people I love the best jump into the work head first without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves and ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
We need to make a church, because that was an entire word. I'm over here like, hallelujah. Oh my gosh. Grace, that was everything. And
it is all Marge Piercy. Let us
no, I mean, like, everything you shared, like, I really appreciated, and I see it on your socials, and I feel it when I'm in Vermont. Like, there's just so much community-led coming together to understand that I'm really just inspired by. Like, I feel like I talk about NOFA Vermont like every day. And I'm really, like, actually all of the organizations on this call, I don't know that you all know, but I feel like I'm constantly singing the praises of people who we have been doing what this moment needs for the entirety of the time that I've known each of you. Like, ever since the first time any of you within your role came on my radar, I've just felt like I'm not alone anymore. Like, I have felt like, okay, there's a squad of people who we all see this world in its possibilities. We see the supportive structures that we can be for our farmers and our land stewards, and in the ways that all of our communities can access everything that they need to feel whole. And this whole time together has just been a reminder for me. Like, I just, every time we're together, I'm like, this is a reminder that we have been, coloring that picture in together. And now we're having this opportunity to, like, share that with other people, other parts of other movements that want to understand how to access and support the things that we've been doing so well, that an entire government attack has been mounted against the very things that we hold and do really well as a movement. So I continue to see this as this moment as an affirmation that the relationships that we've been role modeling, cultivating, being accountable to are exactly what is needed in this moment. And so thank you, each of you, for coming and bringing, like, you brought the power to this space and this time together. And so I went ahead and took folks off of mute. So if you are in the audience and you want to raise your hand, there were a lot of questions that were submitted beforehand. And so I do have one question that I want us to all grapple with, but we have enough time for another question. So Ira, you can go ahead and come off mute and ask your question or share your comment.
Absolutely. I have a comment. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for everything all of you are doing. I just wanted to repeat back and articulate what I am learning from these calls, and in particular this one. Thought it might be useful for everybody. So I jot down notes about what I'm learning as I am taking this information back to the communities that I am working with. I'm also a farmer who lives in Connecticut as well as New Orleans. And I basically am also a grant writer. So I have a community of folks in a variety of places that I support. I also want to make one mention of a large movement that I've gotten involved in called Ag Up, and it literally is a solidarity between farmers and truckers. And so there's a big movement right now to enable farmers to be able to work with a minority truckers association and actually be able to make food available to people nationwide. And so we're working on that right now. But what I'm learning, okay, articulate a positive vision. Power is up for grabs, get you some. Building and supporting community by sharing resources, sharing information safely, preparing for escalations, working in solidarity, this being the long-handled spoon metaphor that Grace mentioned, learning from past and present movements worldwide, mutual reciprocity and mutual aid, the stone soup metaphor, protests, actions, momentum, ask what people are willing to do, and finally, create art, poetry, and stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. You know, I grew up. My dad's. I'm the daughter of a trucker, so
Nice.
anything that brings farmers and truckers together, I'm like, yes, more of that,
Yeah,
please. So thank you
yeah.
for sharing that. I really am grateful for your consistent participation and you just uplifting this journey that you're on with us. So thank you for that. And Ira, I don't know if you saw the chat, but Dr. Jazz from the Black Food and Justice Alliance sent a note to you in the chat. So
Thank you.
more
I
and
just
more
saw it.
connections in this space. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. So the question that I want to kind of, I guess, pose to each of the panelists as we kind of, transition into next steps. I will do a quick, there were so many updates given that I don't think that I would add anything to the updates given. I will make the slides that I had prepared available and all of the questions that have been submitted with the registration will be on the frequently asked page. But one question that came in just kind of hit me in the gut. And, I wanted to hear how our panelists would respond. And someone asked, could we have hope? So I want to pose that to our panelists and give you all a moment to address that question.
So I am going with another poet's line about this, which is how I think about hope. Seamus Heaney, who's a poet I love, says, "Hope is not optimism, which expects that things will turn out well, but let me see if I've got it. But something rooted in the conviction that there is good working for." And that's kind of what I think is kind of like, the heart is a muscle the size of a fist kind of energy. We make our own hope by believing that there's good worth working for, no matter how it turns out.
Yeah, I can weigh in. I think that's awesome, Grace. And yeah, I mean, my short answer is yes. The quote that came to mind that folks, many of you are probably familiar with, from Miriam Kaba, which is "Hope is a discipline," is another one I feel like that is resonating with me a lot right now. That it does feel like it's a different kind of hope right now. It's not the sort of easy, lofty, the abstract hope, but it is rather being deliberate and disciplined, in how we think about it, and deliberate and disciplined in holding hope, despite the challenge, and in spite of it. Yeah. So anyway, not very articulate in explaining it, but yes, it feels incredibly important to have that and hold that as a discipline and a practice when things are this hard. I'll invite others to jump in too.
One of the quotes that is keeping me grounded is actually getting from a Danish children's book that I saw early on Instagram, and I don't know, it has been like a beautiful reminder. Uh, how do you tell your kids like to not to be afraid of the dragons? And it was something like, it's actually a beautiful thing that we get to teach our kids how to slay dragons. And basically the idea that we should be somewhat thankful that we get to live in these times and get to do this work. And for me, that resonates a lot because I have a lot of personal connection to that. The town I was born in, the Dominican Republic, has killed all the dictators from the Dominican Republic. So a lot of the political education that we come from is really tied to protecting our civil liberties and advocacy. So a lot of my friends are just like, "Vanessa, this is what you were born for." And like, I think it's such a beautiful reminder, like that we do come from a long line of resistance, and this we should see this as a gift, as a test, or endurance and or hope and or discipline as a movement.
Dr. Vanessa, there's a quality that's attributed to Koreans, and I'm Korean, called Han, Jan, which I have heard a translation of that is anguished hope. I'm like, there's nothing I more deeply identify with. I'm like, yes, my people, anguished hope.
Oh my God. Yes. Will you write how to spell the word in the chat?
Yeah, it's H-A-N. Yeah, so yeah, to Vanessa, I'm sort of like, yes, my people, I'm made for this moment. And also, I guess I'll just say, yeah, echoing what Aita was saying earlier about like, yeah, at least those of us on the panel, right? Like, our work is made possible by the farmers that we work with. And I'll just say that like the farmers that I'm working with, including some of whom just on their own farm have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, from canceled frozen USDA contracts, are still planting their original crop plans, right? Like, and they don't have the dedicated markets yet for them, but they're doing so with the kind of anguished hope energy of like, it's also a recognition. They're like, well, we know that our communities are going to need this food more than ever. And we know that that's our role right now. And, like we both have faith in ourselves, and we are placing faith in you all to help us find a way to get that food to our community in a way that also supports our farms survival. So yeah, I'm thinking about those farmers who are moving forward as well.
Eshe or Aita, would either of you like to weigh in? Hopefully both of you can. Go ahead and you can unmute, Eshe.
Hey everybody. Sorry I wasn't able to get on the call earlier, but I know Aita held it down for us. Thank you. I've been able to catch a few of you, and it's always amazing the new presence of folks who are thinking through this life in a way that moves us forward. I'm gonna take a different thought around hope. I think about the late great Bobadit Gregory, and he had a little bit of a rant on hope that touched me some years ago. But I'm inclined to stop hoping passively and be committed and clear. And I think that the things that are going to move us through come with clarity and resilience and that by any means kind of movement energy. And so I don't think I have the capacity to happily hope. And I don't think that's what we're doing here, but I think I'd rather be hastily heaving some things through and know that it's going to happen. Because that's all I got. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Eshe. Aita, I'm not sure if you're able to come off mute. I do see that you shared in the chat, farmers gonna grow food, period. People need to be fed. That part hasn't changed. So, yes, I'm so grateful. We're so close to close, and you already know, like I feel like my role in this movement is like the hope vibes. Like that's my only job. Like it's not the law stuff or the advocacy. It's just like I'm so fortunate to have relationships with people who bear witness to the reason that our ancestors were able to have hope despite famine, despite wars, despite genocide, despite, religious oppression and oppression against women and all of the things, just even within my family's recent history. I'm fourth generation immigrant from both, my mom's side of the family is from China, and then my dad's side of the family is from Africa by way of Jamaica. And I just think about what a miracle it is that this moment that we're all invited to share together is really an opportunity to, how Frantz Fanon says that, we get to carve our wrinkle, right? Like this is the moment for us to make our mark in what will be the legacy that we pass on for generations to come. And so I feel truly honored and blessed to be a part of legacy making with you all. I promise I will do a quick spiel on next steps. So one next step is that there will be an ongoing series of WTF that will be a skills focused conversation series. We're going to be talking about things like mutual aid, solidarity economy, security, especially around issues related to immigration. We've talked a lot, and it's come up in the chat about folks losing their jobs. And, I'm a millennial, so I'm very accustomed. I'm very accustomed to recessions that result in job loss. But I realize that not everybody is built like that. And so as a geriatric millennial who, cut my teeth on foreclosure defense and a mass market and, capital collapse, I feel that there's some learnings that geriatric millennials have to pass both to those who've come before us and those who are coming after us. And so there'll be more conversations with folks in different movement spaces, and especially all of the learnings that we've cultivated since COVID around actualizing the local food movement that we had been building for 40 years as a movement. And so really wanting to give some real, practical strategies and best practices. That's another theme that came up in the questions. And that's because the lawsuits, like Sarah said, are going to take a really long time. None of the preliminary injunctions that have been ordered have been specific to the exact situations that a lot of us are impacted by. And so the lawsuits that we're watching are either in really early stages where the defendants haven't even answered the complaints, and that just means they haven't given an official legal response to why the complaint is inaccurate, or conceding to the complaint. And so that means that the lawsuits are still in their very, very early stages. We won't know the interpretation of the executive orders from the court's perspective, and so we'll have to continue to advocate in all the ways that we can, especially considering, like Sarah said, that there will be many more lawsuits that will need to be filed. Many of you might have seen that there was a leaked USDA memo that outlined some words that are being used to scrutinize existing contracts. And so if that memo actually is real, that may open up a whole other level of possible lawsuits that may need to be filed. And so all that to say, the timing of when these resources will actually become available, if at all, without the pressure of litigation or contractual litigation, which takes a really long time to litigate. We as a movement have to think about the things that are within our control. And you've heard so many of those things on this call today. And so that's why this Solidarity Sesh is really the kickoff of bringing to you all and others. We will be recording these sessions because we really want to give actionable steps that folks can take. And so look out for the schedule. They're going to be throughout this month. Every week, there'll be a news strategy session that will be presented with voices from folks across and between our movements, as well as, in addition to Farm Commons, that is looking to represent folks that want to appeal any decisions that have been made with regard to your contract with USDA. Farmers Legal Action Group is also an organization. These groups will have their links in the PowerPoint presentation that I'll share out with the link to the video, as well as Farm Aid still has their hotline up and running. So we want to make sure that we're letting farmers know that all of those resources, because as many of us know, a lot of the financial crisis that will be emerging in the next couple months are going to be precipitated by mental health and emotional crises throughout and across our communities. So it's really important. I'll also be sharing a lot of mental health resources in one of the strategy sessions. So really grateful to all of you for sharing our time together. And as it has become the tradition of WTF, I'm going to share one of the things that makes me hopeful. And I chose this song in particular because it is called Water Blessing. So, you might not be able to understand the patois that they're singing, but just know that part of the tradition of Carnival is about, being near the water, being blessed, kind of like some would think of like a baptism. And so it's a rebellious type of baptism that we're going to celebrate as we exit, and the video will be available, as will the PowerPoint. Thank you so much to the panelists. And if you want to stay on for the jam session, I'll cue up that song in 1 second.
Front for your blessings, come and front for your blessings.